What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Simon from Grant's Lawn Care. As you can see, I am introducing to you guys my Craftsman push mower, self-propel front wheel drive. I was blessed to get this mower a few weeks ago, pretty much free. This is my first time putting it to work myself to see exactly what it can do. And just speaking just ahead of the actual video playing, of the little bit of footage I did get of it, I am very, very impressed with this mower. Even though the grass that I took on wasn't very thick, it was more so of the dandelion type deal, but it was grass in the mix. It's been dry around here lately, so things are kind of slowing down once again. And I don't think they call for rain really until either the end of the week or sometime next week, to be honest with you. And it's Wednesday today. First impressions of using this mower: very good mower. The mower was actually only used maybe once by the previous person that owned it, so very good, brand new mower pretty much. Motor sounds great, leaves a very nice even cut, and I don't have many properties at all really that I have to push mow, but granted, as the future keeps going on and business keeps growing, I never know what properties I may have to use a push mower on to get into some back gates or small areas where my rider can't get in. I do have one property now that I can use a push mower on in two areas, but I just take my string trimmer to it, knock it down, and just keep it moving. I try to pack as light as I can on my days I'm mowing, just so I won't have the hassle of having so many different pieces of equipment on my truck when on that particular route I only need my rider, a blower, my trimmer. And it may sound funny, but I don't even take an extra can of regular gas to an extent, because once I top my rider off, as I've said in a previous video, I'm good. I can do several properties in a day with one tank on that rider. So I mostly take my mixed gas with me because I'm using 3 different pieces of equipment that uses a mixed gas. But other than that, I try to travel as light as I can. So without further ado, just want to get you a little bit of footage and content of me using this Craftsman self-propelled mower that I recently acquired. So I hope you guys sit back and enjoy, and I'll catch y'all shortly. And guys, just to bring up a different topic, because talking about lawn care is something that is just pretty much going to be the main thing on lawn care channels and everything like that. But I just want to pick everybody's brain, and I'll just throw out from my era, the 90s. Yeah, I'm a 90s baby. On memories from the past. On Instagram, there are several pages that just go back and show memories from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s and early 2000s. And I'll just speak just briefly on some really good memories from the late 90s to the early 2000s. And the first thing I can say, that as an adult now, a thing that I miss from the late 90s and the very early 2000s, the number one thing would be the gas prices. Man, as a child, pumping gas was fun. We really didn't even know the struggle of just keeping gas in a vehicle, because the prices now versus then is just like, wow, mind blowing. Back then, you used to see 98 cents, a dollar, $1.10, etc., etc. And I vividly remember that. You pull up to a gas station back in the day, and you didn't even have to go inside. Back then, there was more trust in the average person. They would see you at the pumps, and they would cut the pump on, and you would go in and pay for however much it took for you to fill up, or however much you decided to get in general, and that was it. Now, you going in there, or you gonna be putting a credit card in that machine, and that's the only way you're gonna get some go-go juice out of that machine before you go on about your way. But just those are some memories, man. You pull up, and especially if it's a gas station that you frequent, the cashier and they know who you are. You don't even have to go in there. Hey, I want to get 20 on 15, which is $20 back in the 90s, will fill you up. And I'm sure back in the 70s and 80s, it will fill you up also. Another thing from the 90s is just going to the flea market, and some people know them as swap meets. Nowadays, everything is so online, at your fingertips. All you have to do is get on Amazon, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, etc., and you can get an item that you're looking for. Versus, when you did go to the flea market, you would browse around, what other people was trying to sell, and you meet new people and have good conversations, and it was just really different at the flea market, because sometimes you see things you never saw before, and you'll talk to somebody and they'll give you a history on what it was. It could be anything from an old school lawnmower, they sell a lot of those at the flea markets, up into just anything old school, an old school fertilizer spreader or whatever it is. You just back then, you would go to the flea market and you would just have a good time, and you would spend that 45 minutes to an hour, and you'd leave. And another thing from back in the early 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, is just the traditional Saturday mornings in general. Saturdays really felt like a weekend day back then. It felt like, you had your full 24 hours. You would wake up, rather if you was early person or midday person, you would get up, and Saturdays really felt like Saturdays. And granted, now, nowadays, people still celebrate and have good times, parties on Saturdays, everything like that. But it's like the atmosphere, to an extent, has just changed. It's like you blink your eyes, it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The weekend's over, you go back to work Monday. And if you pay attention to a lot of people online, it's like they just don't, they enjoy the weekends, but they don't enjoy the weekends, because just like it's an eye blinking thing. If you blink your eyes, the weekend's over. But back then, man, it's just like weekends were just really the thing. Another thing from back then in that era was the cartoons, man. You had some very good cartoons. I'm still digging old cartoons. The Flintstones came out way before I was even decided to be brought onto this earth. But I like the Flintstones. I like I sometimes watched the Jetsons. Any of those older cartoons, the Pink Panther, Popeye the Sailor Man, all of that old school stuff, man. It's just like, not knocking anything from the new age, but those old school shows and everything, they just really bring back a lot of memories. And just one last thing from the 90s that and early 2000s that I'd say that was a very fond memory was just the quality of a lot of things that were made back then versus now. It seems like back then, things were more, I guess, put together, and they held up very well, versus now, it depends on what it is you buy or use. It breaks really easy, it's fragile, or it just don't stand the test of time as how things back in the day were made. But I don't really want to prolong this video. Those are just some of my memories from back then. Let's make this entertaining, man. Drop a comment below and tell me your fond memories. I mean, if you don't want to mention, when you were born or whatever, but things from your time, back in your day that, you stand out on memory lane. Things that you wish would come back today that existed back, in those times when things just seemed like they were, not as rushed and not as, hurry up and do because tomorrow is coming. It's like nowadays there's just a rush to do everything. There's no more like, slowing down, if that makes any sense. But guys, leave some feedback, leave the comments. I really appreciate it. And this is Simon from Grant's Lawn Care, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all continue to be safe. Thanks.